Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new year, new month, new season of Marvelous Movie Mondays. A new intro too, some new clips in there. We judged it up a little bit to allow for some appearances from characters of the past year. We got some X-Men '97 at the end there. We got some Agatha in there, some Wolverine, a little Madam Web tinkle in the middle there.
The Madam
Um,
Web took me out. I was like, "Oh, okay."
yeah. How's it going, Kels? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Dill. It's going great. My 2025 is already like so chaotic. I have a lot on the docket this year.
Mm.
But I'm so happy to be back, doing our weekly thing here at MMM.
Yeah, we're trying to keep and honor the traditions of the past, but also pave the way forward for something new. Because you never know what 2025 will bring. So we got a little bit of a fresher, cleaner bottom banner down there with our names, Kelsey and Dyl, and our very basic socials there. Even though I think Kelsey's socials vary from Kilpatrick to Kilp, but
Yeah.
we figured if you look up Kilp, you'll find her regardless.
Yeah.
To kind
There
of
you
fill in
go.
the rest. Yeah, so you can see our socials there. We're not going to clutter it with logos of Twitters and TikToks because we don't know which of those will be on / exist throughout the year. So to make it cleaner, we're just scratching all the logos and it's just our names because
Yeah.
it's our show. And since your name comes first in the title, we put you first. We put you on the left this year, Kels. How do you feel about
Right.
that?
Very different.
Mhm.
But I like it. It feels right. It makes sense.
Yeah, it's gonna give it just a little bit of extra twist and flair because we need a new beginning. Speaking of new beginnings, on a sadder note, today's been a rough day for many. I know. It is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we celebrate that and we celebrate him, and that's amazing. But it's also an event of something else in American history that took place. We're not going to talk about it in depth, but for those struggling, we see you, we hear you, and it's been a rough day. So the best way to kind of combat that ourselves in a very productive manner, non-violent manner, is to talk about Marvel stuff. That could be like a fun way to counteract all the craziness going on in the world. But Kels, how has your break been? I know we've taken a few weeks off of this show. This is our weekly show, so we like to take a nice like month off just because doing a weekly show is a lot more prep than doing one a month. So Kelsey's always on every week, so I really appreciate that from her. But I also give her the most time off to relax between seasons. So how have you enjoyed your time off, Kels? You said 2025 has been a little chaotic, but have you been just kind of not thinking about Marvel at all? Have you been revisiting any Marvel? Have you just been kind of enjoying other movies? What's your life been like, Kels?
So, Dill, I've actually been watching a lot of movies lately. I started off my 2025 not feeling too good. So I was like, I spent a lot of days just like laying on the couch and taking cold medicine and throwing something on to watch. So I went back to like 2024 and even later and caught up on some films that I meant to watch and never got around to. So I finally watched The Iron Claw, which was great.
Oh, okay, okay.
I watched Civil War. I
Hmm.
enjoyed that a lot. Liked
Mm.
that one a lot. Um, I watched Amelia Perez while I was cat sitting for my cousin. Chad recommended in our Discord a kind of more lighthearted film called Thelma, starring
Hmm.
June Squibb on
Yeah.
Hulu, which is very, very cute, very funny. So yeah, I just feel like I was, just taking some me time and um catching up. I was like doing all this logging on Letterbox. I've like already read 3 books for my year. I'm like feeling
Yes.
very
Nice.
like culturally like in like I don't know, involved, I guess.
Yeah, like you're trying to become more of a pop culture queen here.
Yeah.
You already covered the Marvel stuff. Now you're trying to branch out even more, and especially with this year. I mean, 2025, new beginnings. James Gunn is kicking off the DC universe this year, so maybe there's a way, not for this podcast, but maybe there's a way we kind of explore some of that now that it's a
Yeah.
fresh, brand new a franchise. Oh my gosh, sorry, I just got podcasts on the brain because we're prepping for a lot of podcasts in this early portion of 2025. We want the big winter / Oscar season to be full of so much great stuff, including including something that happened last year, but we have to talk about today because it is a Marvel product. It is part of our Marvel Trivia League. It is like a mainstay here. It's a show we have enjoyed the first few seasons of. I don't know if we can both say the same about the third season. We'll find out. But Kelsey, we got to talk about What If season 3 today, because that was something they
Yes.
dropped while we were on our break. So we need to kind of catch up and make up for lost time.
The series finale
Yeah,
of What If.
which
Um,
I don't realize. I didn't think I realized that was it. Like when it
yeah,
ended, like, all right, that's it. Like it had a definitive ending. But I was also kind of like, wait, this feels like something that doesn't need an ending. Like it feels like something that could be just open ended if you just keep doing the same old thing. Um,
right.
yeah, but then they wanted to decide to make it all connected and end it. We got mad after the first season when we're like, oh wait, no, these shouldn't be connected. Like let them all exist separately. And then the second
Yeah.
season doubled down on that, and then the third season said, well, screw that. This is all just one story we're telling. But yeah, very, very interesting to see where we started and now where we are at with What If season 3. But Kels, anything else we need to get to before we jump into What If?
I did want to talk about the Golden Globes a little bit, just
Okay,
because
yeah,
we
yeah,
did
yeah,
have
yeah.
some Marvel representation, a
Absolutely.
big
I've been
night
rusty,
for.
Kels. Thank you for keeping me honest with the awards talk. Yeah, I feel like the Golden Globes happened 6 months ago now because we haven't
Yeah.
had the chance to actually talk about them. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, just like lots of Marvel faces at the Golden Globes. Jake Gyllenhaal was nominated for a show he was in. Kate Blanchett was nominated for her show. Edward Norton, famously the first Hulk, our first Bruce Banner, who set the stage there, was nominated. Guy Pearce was nominated. Zendaya was nominated for Challengers. And obviously, Catherine Hahn was nominated for Agatha All Along, which was great because she was nominated for an actual Marvel project. And then our two winners of the night were Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez and Sebastian Stan won for A Different Man. And I'm
Yeah.
very, very happy and excited for him because
Yeah.
he's great.
Have you seen that yet or no?
No, I haven't. That's
Okay.
another one that I really want
I was gonna
to.
say it just hit max, so it get on
Oh,
it because it is. Oh, it is so good. Yeah.
oh my God,
Actually,
I'm
this is.
there.
I try not to talk about the current events, but I watched The Apprentice today, just so I can see the
Oh,
other edge of the coin, the other
choice.
side of
That's
the
a
coin there.
choice.
I always say other edge of the coin. Coin has one edge, I meant the other face
Right.
of the coin, the other side. I don't
Yeah.
know, edge of the box. I don't know what I was trying to say, but yeah, no, I mean, great performance. I mean, that's kind of where I'll leave it.
Right. Right.
I figured, you know what, if I'm ever gonna bite the bullet and watch that movie because I have to for awards purposes, because I try to watch everything that's gonna be nominated, I'm like, you know what, today's the day. So I watched it, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Not gonna report any more on it.
Yeah. There
Yeah,
were
but go.
three moments from the Golden Globes that like I was like, oh my God. First of all, I thought it was a very good Golden Globes.
Yeah,
Like
Nikki
Nikki
Glazer
Glazer
killed it.
killed it.
Yeah, and I think that really set the tone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I loved how one of the actors from Shogun, because Shogun's just like sweeps everywhere they go. One of the actors from Shogun just like got up and was like, "Hi, I'm an actor from Japan. You don't know me. Gotta go." And I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet. Like you could have taken your moment. Like,
Right. Mhm.
yeah, what it was just very funny to me." And then when the director for Amelia Perez won, he had this great little line in his acceptance speech where he said, I didn't grow up with sisters, but I believe if there were more sisters in the world, like the world would be a better place. And I was like, oh my God, that's so sweet. And he's right.
Mhm.
And then Sebastian Stan's acceptance speech was great because he said, like, these things that we stigmatize in society, like disfigurement and things that make us uncomfortable, like we need to stop shying away from those and we need to, subject ourselves to everything and all different types of people and stop, the animosity that
Right.
comes with it and just really bring these kinds of stories to the forefront. And I really like how he kind of stood on business and was like, yeah, and I'm also here for another movie called The Apprentice, and I know that makes people uncomfortable, but like that's just what art does,
Mhm.
it's to push you out of your comfort zone. And
Yeah.
so it was a
Yeah.
great
Listen, me not
moment.
talking about it now is because I don't want to get into the real life shit going on, but it is
No,
important
no,
to
for
watch art
sure.
that makes us uncomfortable. And it's the thing is, like, it's not an advocation for him at all.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
it's very, and it's not like the hit piece that other people are trying to make it out as either. It's
Mm,
nuanced, and I think that's what we need
mhm.
is nuanced art. I also love Demi Moore's acceptance speech. That just made me
Yes.
so happy.
Yeah,
First of all,
that
for a
one's good too.
horror films don't win awards normally. And second off, just because it's Demi Moore and her career, and just what that movie says about a lot of things. You've seen that movie, right?
I haven't, Dill. It's not anywhere for free
Oh
yet.
my gosh, that's like the like that is the movie where I'm
No,
like
I
Kelsey's
know,
gonna
I
be
know.
like, okay,
Well,
yep,
I wanted to see it right when it was in theaters, but, like, I feel like a week went by, like, it was released in theaters, a week went by, and then I feel like it was nowhere. Like, I
mm,
did try to go, but there was just no showtimes for it,
gotcha,
besides,
yeah,
like, really obscure theaters that were far from me, so I was like,
right,
"Ugh, I'll just wait for it to hit
that
streaming," and
makes
then,
sense,
still
yeah.
waiting for that, so,
Well, I can't wait till you report back with Different Man and The Substance, especially
yeah.
when you've seen them. But what else did we watch over break? We watched What If season
Yes,
3,
we
so it is
did.
now time to get into it. We're not going to do the typical TV review and recap, where we're going to recap every moment because that would take probably 18 hours. But we are deciding to just kind of go through each episode, talk about what we thought of them, and call it a day.
Yeah,
This is not necessarily one of the most consequential shows in the MCU, so it's not like this is gonna change, or as far as we know, gonna like change everything that we know, and like kind of have a big impact on the series at large. So this is just kind of a fun little way to ease back into the year, or ease out of last year, I should say, because it did come out at the tail end of 2024, Kels. But
yeah.
all right, Kels, get the ball rolling. Let's talk about What If.
Well, Dill, like, full disclosure overall, I'm feeling very meh about this season. There were definitely more episodes that I didn't love than in previous seasons where I feel like, oh my God, like these four were like so solid. And yeah, maybe these four were like okay, but like for me, like this season, I have a very clear favorite. I have a very clear episode in my head that I think is probably the best one. And it's because all the other ones were kind of like, eh, or,
Mm.
that I'm feeling whatever about. So I just thought that right off the bat, we would maybe share what our favorite episode was from the season.
Okay, well, because my thoughts are not as kind as yours either. Because mine, I didn't really love any of these episodes
Okay.
because honestly, it's one of those things where I think the whole point of the show was to like take something that is so substantial in the MCU and turn it on its head. If
Mhm.
one little thing goes wrong, what happens? That's what I thought it was going to
Mhm.
be, and then it became more of like, let's just pair some odd character pairings together. Let's put them in odd situations. But I thought that was interesting. You had a zombies episode. You had like
Yeah.
Captain Carter, like, which would have changed if this happened.
Yeah.
But then I feel like as we went on with season 2 and now season 3, it just felt like the ideas weren't as fun, weren't as creative. It was mostly, I honestly felt like who was free that day to record in the voice booth,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
Kumail's around, like Catherine
Yeah.
Hahn's here for Agatha. Let's put them into, like I felt like a
Yeah.
lot of the episodes were like that, and I felt like it wasn't like I was ever wondering, oh, wouldn't this be such a cool thing if this ever happened? And I feel like only maybe 2 or 3 actually succeeded in showing me something that I was like, wow, that's a really cool idea that we've never seen in the MCU. The rest were just, for our terminology, chuffa. Like I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
okay. And then they try to make it one overarching story at the end, but then I'm just kind of like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was not a fan of the season, and I thought, especially for a series finale, I think you could have gone bigger and bolder. And in the final episode, they literally show a montage of all these other ideas, and I'm like, that would have been cool. Like, there's a Ghost Rider in there. There's like all these different things where I'm like,
Yeah.
that could have been cool.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're just not. They just weren't really cool ideas. I didn't think. Some cool
Yeah.
interactions, some cool performances, seeing characters back in animated form, but I don't know. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, what an awesome idea.
No, Dilly, I totally agree with you. It totally just felt like they were like, okay, well, who do we have contracts with? We have a contract with Simu Liu, Catherine Hahn, Oscar Isaac. They were just like, who is like currently in our, like on
Mm,
our books right now, and they were like, okay, then let's just write episodes like around these characters, and they didn't even feel like that connected or interesting. So in a way, like this kind of felt like almost like the laziest season because even if you go back to season 1, it's not like they had Robert Downey Jr. doing the voice for Iron Man. Like it was they had other people to do great work
Mick Wingert.
as a Mick Wingert. we had all these other actors that were available to do, great animated versions of these characters that we love. Like, we could have easily like included, some of these other people. And I guess maybe they're trying to be more like, well, these are the, these characters that we have now are the future of the MCU. So we don't want to keep making stories with like Iron Man and Captain America. Like, we want to make stories with these people, which like I get, but then like
Then
make the
make them in
stories.
theaters, like make the movies.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
make
yeah,
another Shang-Chi. Don't just like tie him down to this, like this
right,
should be
right,
where you go back and you're like, well, we don't have, Evans around anymore, but we can still tell some Cap stories, like that could be what this
yeah,
is, let the voice actors shine. There's voice actors for a reason because they
right,
specialize in this.
yeah.
But I don't know. But what was your favorite episode, Kels? Because you wanted
My
to open with this, like,
My
so
favorite episode, and what I think, in my opinion, was the best episode, was episode 3, What If the Red Guardian Stopped the Winter Soldier?
okay,
I think that one was the most successful because it did kind of go back to a scenario that we had watched play out in the MCU, which was the Winter Soldier goes and kills Tony Stark's parents. And then like what happens if they kind of they form this like buddy cop like dynamic between the two of them. And I just found the whole thing very charming. I love that it was like, actually David Harbour and Sebastian Stan. And, I just thought that they complemented each other really well. That, in my opinion, was the most successful episode.
yeah. I thought that was like my number 2 or 3 because of what I was saying earlier, where like that actually felt like a moment that changed the MCU. Like, if
Yeah.
Bucky doesn't kill Tony's parents, what happens? The only thing is, I would have loved to see what happens with Tony because of that. Like, how does Civil War?
Right.
Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I want to see. I want to see, okay, then in the future now, so now Tony doesn't have any reason to fight Bucky. So like, what happens when Cap and Tony have this disagreement? But then does Howard? If Howard's not dead, then Howard's around. Like, I think that's the problem. Is like, the immediate fix is like, cool. It's like, oh, if he didn't kill Howard Stark, cool. But then it's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to just see this buddy cop thing. I want to see now how that shows, like how that changes the MCU at large. But I think the problem is also you only have 25 minutes to tell the story, so you can't just
Right.
do the whole MCU what would have been different thing. So I get it,
Yeah.
but I did like it at least. Like, it was one that held my attention, also because it did feel like it was something very integral to the MCU that they were kind of changing, which is kind of what we always hoped this show would be. My
Yeah.
favorite episode was actually the premiere. It was the Hulk and the
Oh,
mechas.
yeah.
Because it felt like, it was so different than anything in the MCU. It reminded me of Zombies, where like, it's not like you're changing an event that already happened in the MCU. It's more so just like, okay, what would happen though if instead of superheroes on the ground with capes, what if everyone were these like larger than life monsters, a la Godzilla, King Kong, like kind
Yeah.
of playing into the kaiju of it all. It also felt a little Transformers-y, Power Rangers-y, which I kind
Yes.
of like,
Yes.
because it's like that's the stuff we don't see in the MCU, or like big monsters and giant robots. It's all
Yeah.
small monsters and small robots. So it was cool to kind of just like at least take a different genre and like cater the MCU to that genre. Like, what if there was an MCU movie that was a kaiju movie? And I think that's cool. And I think it
Mhm.
shows that like you probably can't have a whole movie of it, but like it was fun for 25 minutes. And
Yeah.
I love Hulk. I mean, I'm wearing the shirt now. I love him. He's my favorite. So it was just cool to get like a little bit more of a Hulk centered story that also had like something interesting at the end. I thought the visuals also in that were the best because it did feel the most creative, and it is the first episode, so maybe that's where most of the budget went. But like making these really cool character designs,
Yeah.
these big machines, these big robots, these big monsters, and the Hulk monster itself was really cool. So that was my favorite because it was at least the most distinct and unique and fun for me. Which is sad because everything else that followed was not as good. So it's just,
Right. Well,
like it's
you're
tough
just
when
downhill from
when the
there.
premiere is the best episode. You're like, that's
Ooh,
not a good
yeah.
sign.
Yikes.
But yeah, it
Yeah,
was fun.
no, Dill. As I was watching the first episode, I was like, well, Dill's gonna like this one because it's like all about Bruce Banner. And it really, there is a really great message there where um, you know, like Sam and Bruce have this whole like relationship, and Sam's really able to kind of like help Bruce, being kind of this like almost therapist figure in his life, where he's able to kind of like talk about like what it's like being the Hulk and how he's afraid of himself and he's afraid to be around other people.
Yeah.
And how he does kind of make this sacrificial play at the end, and all of that. There were a lot of great moments. I think that at the first episode was actually probably like my second, definitely my number 2, right
There you
after
go.
episode 3.
Our favorite episodes were the same, 1 and 2, and it's like after
Yeah,
that, I mean, like really there are some fun moments in other ones, but I feel like
yeah,
yeah, like after that it really dives off quick.
yeah. So, uh, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I was gonna say like, oh, let's save like our favorite and our least favorite for like the end, like we would normally would. But I just feel like this whole season was like very meh. That I
Yeah,
was
I
like, I
can't pick
just
a
feel like,
least favorite. I just
yeah,
feel like everything else kind of culminates together. Like there are some other
yes,
episodes that I would put not at the very bottom just because there are fun ideas, but like I was
yeah.
most of these episodes are the worst episode for
I
me.
was like, there's no way we can walk through this whole season and not me like very blatantly like love episode 3 and like not any of the others. So I was like, let's just get the favorites right out of the way.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
yes, episode 1 was what if the Hulk fought the Mech Avenger, and that was basically like in a culmination of all the remaining of Avengers in this universe because the original 6 had actually died because of an experiment that Bruce Banner had done. So the Avengers that we see in this movie are the main ones are Sam as Captain America, Monica as Spectrum, and Bucky as the Winter Soldier. We also see
Red Guardian's
Nakia.
in there.
Yes, Nakia is in this episode. Alexi and Melina are. Oscar Isaac is there as Moon Knight, and Simu Liu is there as uh, Shang-Chi. Melina is not voiced by Rachel Weisz. She is voiced by Kari Walgren, and
Mhm.
Nakia is voiced by Brittany, oh boy, Adebamola. Adebamola. I'm
Yeah,
sorry if I'm butchering that.
you got it. You got it.
Um, yeah, I'm just looking down at my notes. I did like how I feel like every episode had its unique intro this season. Like this one had a very retro intro
Mm.
because they
Mm,
started with like the TV show that was like
I
based
like
off
that.
of the Avengers. And I
Mhm.
feel like they kind of did that for every episode. Like even in the next episode, episode 2, what if Agatha went to Hollywood? Like it kind of starts in a black and white
Yeah.
um Marvel intro,
Again,
which was
another thing
cool.
that I feel like they dropped the ball on as it went on, but there
Yeah.
was at the very end a really cool twist to that at the end, like of the season. But one other thing on the
Mhm.
premiere I that I
Yeah.
really like talking about that intro, it felt very X-Men animated
Yes.
series. Like it
Yeah.
felt like they not only served that purpose of like an old timey cartoon, but it actually like felt like the energy and style of that. I honestly would have loved a whole episode of that first, and then oh, it turns out she was watching it on her phone. But like that's the thing is it's like that's not a premise of what if, but it would have
Oh,
been cool. I was
yeah.
just like, let's see what this is.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
kind of digging it, and then when it pulled away, and I was like, oh, I kind of missed that. Like I wish that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, the good point.
It it honestly felt like they had taken some notes on, like, the on X-Men, 97, and they were like, "Okay, so let's sprinkle some of that in What If Season 3," because
Right.
people really seem to love that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. One other thing I was gonna say too is like, though the big thing that you were talking about is like, oh, those Avengers don't exist because Hulk, like something happened and he killed all of them or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's what I want to see. Like that, not that I want to see all the
Right,
Avengers die, but
right.
it's almost like they're showing what happened after. And like this stuff that happens after is very interesting. But it feels like the what if is not what if Hulk fought them. It's what if Hulk killed the other 5 Avengers. Like what happens then? Oh, then he
Mm,
ends up fighting them. Like I feel like the names of these
mhm.
episodes that they were trying to sell were not necessarily the thing that was being changed
Yeah,
necessarily. Like
yeah.
even the second one, which we'll get to in a sec, it's like there's it kind of fills in the gap of where Agatha was at that point in history. She was probably in Hollywood. So the question is not what if Agatha was in Hollywood because she was probably in Hollywood. It's what if she was also with Kingo and this and that. Like it almost feels like
Yeah,
these episodes are
yeah.
misleading for what is actually being tweaked and changed in the timeline to result in what is happening in the episode title. But I just thought it was a cool observation, not necessarily one that makes or breaks the episode. But I was like,
Yeah.
no, the what if is that Hulk ends up destroying the other Avengers. That's the what if. It leads to this next part. But
Yeah.
I'm a picky person.
No, no, I totally get that, Dill.
Mm,
So the Mech Avengers is actually a comic book that came out really recently. It was based off a comic book from 2021.
mm,
So that's pretty cool about how recent that is.
yeah.
Also, I love the references to Captain America: Winter Soldier with the on your left sequence, and how it was like how Sam delivers the on your left line in Avengers Infinity War. It was Bruce delivering it to him in this episode saying on your left. I'm just
Mhm.
seeing if there's a oh yeah, and right at the and the islands that Bruce secludes himself to stay away from people are actually called the Astra Islands, and this is a reference to a storyline that actually takes place in the comic books. The internet told me that. Thank you so much. Yeah, so episode 2. What if Agatha went to Hollywood? So Agatha is posing as an actress because she wants to awaken Tiamat, but she kind of needs the power of all the Eternals. She has gone through every single one Eternal. The last one she needs is Kingo. So in order to do that, she suggests to Howard Stark, her director, producer, agent, he's seemingly doing it all, suggests to Howard Stark that she needs a leading man to be her counter role in this movie that they're shooting, and that is Kingo. And it's not to make a movie at all. It's to absorb his power so that she herself can be a celestial and be this almighty being. I loved that they showed a shot of the Hollywood land sign. So I did look into that. That was built in 1923, and it was to promote a housing development that where people are going to live. And then later, much later, actually, 1949 is when they removed the land part of the Hollywood sign because it was just to reference the neighborhood and no longer the development.
Mm.
And also, as I was reading about the Hollywood sign, they really like let the sign go for like a long time. Like after like the most of the 30s, like 1930s, like no one was taking care of that sign. Like people wanted it torn down. They were like,
Mm.
this is an eyesore. Like no one's taking care of this. And then eventually
Yeah.
they were like, you know what? We're gonna spruce this up and we're gonna get rid of the land and it's gonna be Hollywood. And now it's like iconic.
Yeah.
Um
Very cool.
excuse me, sorry.
You're good.
Um yeah, this one was just very like 1920s, like Hollywood movie star, like
Yeah.
acting
Great
big dance sequence.
Gatsby.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
There is a part in the episode that I wrote down where Agatha and Kingo agree to work together because Agatha convinces Kingo not to let the Celestial, destroy Earth because she's like, think about it, like you want to keep living as a star here, right? Like you don't want to die, you don't want to perish or do anything else with your life. Like you love being in Hollywood. Like you love the attention, you love being an actor. Like let's uh, you know, take on Airship
Mhm.
together. And so they go to Howard Stark with their plan at his house. And Howard's like, "Oh, like you guys showed up together. Like is something happening here?" And they both in unison looked at each other and went, "Sorry, not my type." Which is
Oh.
interesting because as we know, Agatha is gay. And so I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh, is Kingo also? Is that a
Probably.
nod?"
Yeah,
Which
but doesn't he have kids? Or no, Kingo is Kingo, right? So I forget. It's been a while since I've seen Eternals, but the Kingo in Eternals is the same. Yeah, because the Eternals don't age,
yeah.
so it's just. But like he oh, that's what it is. He says he's the son of the other guy, so
Yes,
Hollywood believes him.
yes.
That's why. Okay, because I
Yeah.
was like, doesn't Kingo have a son? And I was like, no, wait, no, it's
No,
a
no, he's the
charade.
same guy. He's
All
just
right, yeah.
he
Okay,
doesn't
never.
age, so he has
So
to
there you
pretend
go.
to be other people.
Yeah, so he doesn't actually have kids. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, not that
So
gay people can't have kids, but at that time in the 20s,
right.
it was very normalized gay
I'm just
people being
saying, I'm like,
Hollywood.
was that like a soft launch of
Yeah,
Kingo's
hey,
sexuality? I
very
think it was
cool.
a wink, wink, nudge,
Yeah,
nudge.
Disney's first gay character. Yeah. I make that joke all the time because every time there's a gay character in a Disney movie, they always say it's the first one ever,
Right,
like when
right.
LeFou and Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's my joke. Um,
So
eh,
stupid.
so I have a question
Um,
with this episode though, Kels.
yeah.
So
Go
is
ahead.
so this is like a what if she went to Hollywood thing, but like this almost feels like they're telling us where she was in the events between the old Salem days and the WandaVision days. Like this doesn't feel very much like an alternate timeline. This just feels like filling in the gaps of where she was because like it doesn't I don't think it really negates what happens in any of the other shows if this is just where Kingo and Agatha were at this point in history. So I'm wondering, is this just like a telling us what happened to them in that middle point of history
Mm,
because they are two characters that don't age that have gone through it, or is
yeah.
this like an alternate timeline? Because like I was looking around, and I think they do tease that she did something in old Hollywood, in one of the shows, either WandaVision or Agatha. There's like in like a montage or whatever, but I don't
Mm,
know, like it feels like I don't know how outside the realm of reality and possibility this actually is. Like I feel like this is just them kind of being like, oh, this is what Agatha was up to in the 1920s, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe because of the Celestials and all that stuff, maybe it's a little bit or consequential to where they're like, no, that was still another timeline. But like I like
Yeah.
to believe that Agatha, even in our own timeline that we have here, maybe she had a stint in Hollywood. Like I like to believe it. She's very theatrical.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the only thing that I can think of specifically was from Agatha All Along, and it was like a reference to her being maybe the woman named Jolene that Dolly Parton
Yeah.
wrote about in
Hmm.
in this title, the Jolene song. But that's the only thing that I can think of with her being like attached to Hollywood. I'm sure there's
Gotcha.
something else that I just can't think of right now.
Yeah, I
I
thought
mean,
you mentioned maybe being an actress or somebody. I did some acting on the side or something like that. Like I feel like that's like
oh,
a
like
throwaway line
some
somewhere,
line like
but I
that.
don't
Yeah,
remember. I don't remember. And yeah, because she has
yeah.
to play the nosy neighbor too. Like I
Maybe.
mean, I just always assumed she was like a bit of an actress. I mean, she's a singer. I don't know. I just feel like it makes
Yeah.
this doesn't feel like the what if. Like oh my gosh, what if Agatha was this? I'm like no, this is just
Yeah.
kind of that's not what if. This is just what it
Yeah,
is.
because it feels like just a branch of who she already is, like a
Yeah,
more exaggerated version of
yeah, it'd
her,
be
which
like if
is
they
a
made an
very
episode of like what was Peggy up to when Steve was frozen. It's like that's not a what if. That's just
right.
what was.
Yeah.
Like that's what she was up to. Yeah.
I mean, for me, this feels very alternate universe just because it feels like what if she didn't go on that quest of like luring witches to the road all those
Mm,
years? Like, what if she just like immediately at one point discovered what the Eternals were? And she was like,
mm.
oh, so I'm going after these guys for power. Like, fuck screwing or screw killing other witches. I don't know what I was.
No, she still wants to screw the other witches. She doesn't
No, no,
want to.
she
She still wants to
definitely
fuck the
still
other
wants to
witches.
screw the
No,
other witches. I'm just saying she's not killing them afterwards. You know
no,
what I mean?
I know. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
She's like, I'm not gonna go after these mediocre witches. Like, I'm going after the big guns, which are these
Mm,
eternal beings. And
mm,
then she discovered about, found out about Tiamat and wanted to become like a full blown celestial, which like
yeah.
I love that for her. Like that's iconic. Like when she was like that big celestial and she was just throwing punches at Arishem, I was like, that's iconic.
Right.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's so Agatha of her,
Hmm.
truthfully.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was very silly, like their banter the whole episode was very like actor forward. Like it was like, "Oh, I just want you to hit your mark." Like it was all these like little quips that like, actors would use, especially like back then. And then I love how she's like convinced to not take over the world and like just continue being and acting because like Kingo's like, "You know what the real magic is? The movies." And she's like, "Okay, yeah, you've convinced me." And I'm like, "All right, silly,
Yeah.
whatever."
Yeah.
Episode 3, my
Yay.
favorite, as we
Yeah.
know. What
Hmm.
if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier? So Alexei wants to prove himself to their boss, Dracov. I almost said Draco. That's a different guy.
Well,
Um,
his Lucius Malfoy. We'll talk about him later.
oh yeah, he's okay. My God, Dill, you're on it.
This is
This is
why
why
I'm
we work
doing it
so
for
well.
5 years.
Hey,
Right.
I think we're on to something here.
4 or
Maybe we
5.
should do
Wait,
this.
1, 2, 3, 4. This is our 5th season, so we've done it for 4 years. This is
Yes.
our 5th, the beginning of our 5th year. Crazy,
Um,
crazy.
yes. So Dracov is sending him to an undercover mission in Ohio. This is what we see happen in Black Widow. Um, And instead of doing that, he's like, no, I'm going to prove myself, stops the killing of Maria and Howard Stark because he wants to convince the Winter Soldier to go after the Rook with him and find this figure that's been like operating, like doing these missions and stuff
Mhm.
with the Red Room called the Rook. And he's like, oh, we're going to go to him and, like prove to Draco Dracoff that we're worth better missions and whatever. And I just love how like the entire time, like Alexei is just like always going off on some like Russian manifesto. Like he's like, yelling at like the teenage girl working at McDonald's and he's like, no, like you are a worker, like you have the power. And
Mhm.
he's like, I just asked you if you wanted fries. Like what is happening here?
Yeah,
Very, very funny. It honestly made me think, I'm like, oh, is this just a sneak peek of what Thunderbolts is gonna be?
maybe. Oh yeah, because they're gonna be together in Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, no, I didn't think about that. Yeah. No, I like their banter because they're such different opposite
Yeah.
personalities too. I think that's how this works so well because Alexi's a lot, and I
Mhm.
realized that in this. I was like, oh, he's annoying. He's a lot, but paired with the other people, that's why Black Widow works so well because Yelena's a very good cool to his
Yeah.
intensity. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. We do get Bill Foster, agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., working in this episode. We see him as Goliath a couple times
Hmm.
throughout the episode. And we also get a celebrity cameo. America Ferrera lends her voice to play Ranger Morales,
Yeah.
who is not a character from the comics. I think her character was just created for the show, but
Mm.
really interesting. She is one of two big celebrities that are not a part of the MCU yet that
Hmm.
are lending their voices for this final season of What If.
Yeah.
Um, I at some point they're like driving through a farm and they make what I think is an Animal Farm reference. Did you have to read that book in school,
I did.
Dill?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Alexi says something about how like, oh, the farmers are like exploiting the animals because the animals do the real work on the farm, and like something along those lines. And I'm like, that's an Animal Farm reference. I didn't read that book in school when I should have, but
Oh, you spark notes
I
it.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, I was not reading when I was
That's
in
so funny
school.
too, because when I think of you're my reader friend. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm my reader friend, Kelsey. My sports friend, like you're my reader
right,
friend.
right.
So the
No,
fact
yeah.
that you didn't read Animal Farm is funny, but
Started reading much later in life. I want to go back to all those books that I was supposed to read in high school and
yeah.
actually read them because I want to know what happened in them. Because I don't know.
Mm.
Um. Yes. So I also appreciated how we got some insight into Alexi's backstory in this um episode. Winter Soldier is like that they kind of have this like serious like camaraderie moment between the two of them where
Yeah.
they're sitting talking to each other, and he's like, how did you get like this? And Bucky's like, well, how did you get like this? And he's like, well, I was nobody, and then somebody offered me a chance to be somebody, and I took it. I wanted to be Mother Russia's protector. And Bucky's like, well, I don't know who I am at all, actually. And so he kind of goes back to the recesses of his mind, and he's like, you have to remember something about yourself, like think back to like who you were. And he's like, I remember Coney Island. And then Alexi's like, there, that's who you are, the great Coney Island protector. And you were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
um and then the big reveal in this episode is that the Rook is actually Obadiah Stane, who's been doing deals with the Red Room in order to get Howard Stark killed so that he could take over Stark Industries. Obadiah Stane is not voiced by Jeff Bridges. He is voiced by Kif Vanderhoovel, who does a good job as
Yeah.
Obadiah Stane. And this makes Alexei so distraught because he's like, oh my God, you're a capitalist pig. Like, this is who I'm working for. Like, it's
Yeah.
just so great. And
Uh-huh.
then Bucky's like, oh yeah, because Obadiah Stane goes on this like huge, capitalist tangent that's like, like you got to go where the money is, and like this is what matters in life. Like you think like all these people above you care about you, they don't. Like they're just trying to like make their money, whatever. And this kind of opens up Bucky's heart because at one point in the episode he does get orders to kill Alexei at one point, and he's like, I don't really want to do that because I'm kind of making friends with this guy, I kind of like him. So instead he pushes he like kicks Obadiah Stane right out of the window of the hotel that they're staying at in Vegas. And then Bucky just goes, I think I murdered that guy. And Alexi's like, that's okay. I didn't really like him anyway. Like, it was just very, very funny for me. And
Hmm.
so then this episode kind of ends with with Bucky actually being able to break the Winter Soldier curse, as I put it in my notes. Interesting. I'm talking about Draco and curses now, so I think I'm getting my franchises
Yeah. You're,
confused.
you're you're a little too excited for that Harry Potter series on Max in a
Oh,
few
am
years.
I? Who knows?
The recasting. Who do they want to make Hagrid? Brett Goldstein. like,
Oh my
yeah.
god. Oh yeah, we'll see.
Mm.
And then Alexei actually ends up faking his death, and he becomes a gym teacher in America. And then the episode ends with Bill Foster offering him a chance to be kind of like the Captain America not the Captain America figure, because it ends with the shot of, the 6 of them in New
Yeah.
York and then the Red Guardian
With Red
joining
Guardian.
the
Yeah,
group. So yeah, it was just a really fun episode for me. And I think comparatively to the rest of the season, like this one I feel like was the most like flushed out. It was
yeah.
heartfelt, it was funny.
It had an
It
arc to it. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Mm. Yeah. All right, so now we gotta talk about all the rest of the shit.
Oh,
No, I'm kidding.
actually, this
Oh!
next one I liked too, Dill. Okay, listen, after
No,
I
I
got
I agree. The thing is, it's ridiculous. It's camp. It's so fucking
it's
stupid,
ridiculous.
but it is funny. It is funny,
Yes.
and just the mere idea of like, okay, at least they have a really interesting idea here. The
Yeah.
funniest part of this though comes a few episodes later when you find out who the daughter grows up to be,
Yeah,
and then it's
yeah.
voiced by Natasha Lyonne. That's what makes this episode better.
Yes,
But no, like
$100%.
this one is like a number 3 for me of the top 3. Like this one is like the best of the worst.
No, yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, Dill. I watched the whole season twice, and the first time I watched this episode, I uh I saw that Darcy had just given birth to an egg, because she conceived an egg with Howard the Duck, and I said, "Okay, what are we doing here? Actually, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What, where? How do we go? How do we stray so
I
far
don't know.
from the
These
light?"
writers are on crack. It's crazy.
But then I watched it a second time, and I was like, you know what? I'm rocking with this episode a little bit, I think. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny, it's ridiculous, it gets so big so quick.
Yeah.
And I think Seth Green does a wonderful job as Howard the Duck. I think
I
he's
mean,
very funny.
we gave a lot of shit to the original Howard the Duck because like we're like,
Yeah.
ew, human bestiality, and now it's like they're conceiving. We were in very mild G-rated
Yeah.
territory in that one. This one they're having a full child together.
Yeah.
I'm just very glad that the child doesn't look too crazy. Like it's not like
Yeah.
I can't make a reference to the substance, but like it doesn't look anything wild,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like mismatched or anything like that. It could have been a lot freakier, but again, it's a kid's show. I mean, this is geared toward younger audiences. It's animated, so
Yeah.
you couldn't get too graphic. But like, I mean, it's stupid. But I'd rather this than the boring shit that happens after. I'm
Yeah.
fine with this kind of camp, ridiculous premise.
So Howard and Darcy conceive a duck on the day of the convergence, so everyone thinks that everyone in the galaxy seemingly thinks that it's probably the most powerful being to come into existence. So we have all these people that want it. The first person we meet, the Grand Master, who I was very surprised to hear was not voiced by Jeff Goldblum. This guy does an amazing Jeff Goldblum impression. His name is
Hmm.
Matthew Friend.
Yeah,
And because I was listening to it, I was like, damn, they got Jeff whatever his name is, Jeff Goldblum for this. Like,
yeah.
that's crazy. They couldn't even get fucking Benedict Wong to be Wong, but they got Jeff Goldblum. But
No.
they did not. It was Matthew Friend.
I
doing
love all the videos of Matt Friend and Goldblum on like red carpets and stuff, and they're like he's doing the voice for him, and
Oh,
it's
so
so
he's
good.
like notoriously
He
like
is
a
like
Jeff
he's like a
Goldblum
notorious impression guy. Like there was a
impressionist.
video last
Yeah.
last week of him talking to Obama, and he was Trump. Like he is the impression guy out there, and I think that's why
Oh,
because he does
wow.
such a good like Jeff Goldblum brings him up on stage with him. Like he's an impression guy. You probably have seen him, you just don't
Yeah.
realize it. So if you look up Matt
Yeah.
Friend on TikTok, which does still exist, you'll find some real great content there. It's
Wow,
funny.
that's great because he
Yeah,
killed it.
yeah.
Caecilius wants it because the zealots, Dormammu zealots want it because they want to use it as a way for Dormammu to have a body. Malekith wants it to bring the place into darkness for the dark elves. Laufey's there. Because Caecilius is the collector in this universe. He goes on to become the collector because he's trying to collect things. And then
As the
Zeus,
collector does.
we get a Zeus cameo, not voiced
Not
by
Russell
Russell Crowe. His name is Darren DePaul,
Crowe.
who does the voice of Zeus for this episode. Yondu is there as Captain Mohawk, which is, I think, it's not a real thing in the comics, but he's referenced to be that a few times in this episode. And so Darcy and Howard are just trying to be new parents. They're trying to protect their kid. Nick Fury shows up to also take the egg. They're battling all these different forces. Oh, at one point the Black Order shows up, not because they
Yes.
want the egg, but just because they want to stay at the lodge that Loki has set up on Jotunheim for
Mhm.
people to like,
Yeah.
it's like a ski resort type of thing. And they're
Right.
like, "Oh, we're here for our stay at the resort." And Howard the Duck is like, "Oh, I thought you wanted to get my magic kid." And they were like, "Oh, did you say magic kid? Now we're interested." So then they
Right.
call their boss. So Thanos shows up and he's like, "Is this for the stones? Where are the stones?" And they're like, "No, actually, egg. How about that?" And he's like, "Oh my God, you called me about an egg." It was like very silly. I love how like every now and then they make Thanos do something kind of silly in this series.
Mhm.
Um, and then the egg hatches and the power of it kills everyone that's there. And Nick Fury is like, "You know what? I'm going to let you guys be parents. I'm not going to take your kid away from you." And it was a
Yeah.
very cute little animated half human, half bird baby.
Birdie.
Birdie.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, when I heard people on Twitter complaining, they're like, invest all my time as an MCU fan only to find that this episode of a show is all about her Darcy fucking Howard the Duck." And I'm like, so when I went to watch it, I was like expecting them to like,
Fuck.
well, yeah, I mean, well, because like we saw how the movie went. No, but I'm glad it was tasteful. It was more about parenting than it was about like their romance. I honestly kind of wanted to see their romance too, like
Mm,
blossom. Like I think that would have been
mhm.
fun. We kind of got a taste of it, right? Because they got together at the Thor party last season, correct?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
the
so it's like a
frat boy
continuation of
tour.
that, but I would have loved to see them dating, and then maybe season 4 we have the baby. But like I get it. You have one season left. You go for broke. You go for the gold. So yeah, no, this was fine. This was not bad. This was just like I wouldn't rewatch it, but I was not offended by it. I was entertained by
Yeah.
it.
No, yeah, it was definitely entertaining and more and this season just needed a silly goofy one to be
Hmm.
entertained by. You know what I
Silly
mean?
goose or duck.
um this is episode 3. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. One of the Easter eggs that I forgot to mention in episode 3 was that when Alexi and Bucky went to Vegas to confront Obadiah Stane, there was a quick shot of Jean Grey and Cyclops there in one
Mm,
of the casinos. And then in this episode, episode 4, you can see Matt Murdock and Karen sitting at the table at the
yeah,
Grandmaster's dining table on the cruise, where
yeah.
they
The thing I
find
like
out.
I was gonna say the thing I like most about the cameos in this is that they're finally acknowledging, oh, we can now like do all this crossover with X-Men stuff. Like this is the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
and place to do that.
Hmm.
Which I like, where you can literally put any characters with anyone in any situation. This is the time where they should just be like milking that. So
Yeah.
I applaud them for at least doing that.
And now, Jill, on to episode 5. What if
Yeah.
the emergence destroyed Earth?
Don't care.
So,
Honestly,
so
I was just like
basically,
I was so bored. All right, yeah, let's go.
yeah. So the Tiamat destroys Earth, so it's kind of all fragmented and not a lot. Not a lot of good places to live. Quentin Beck uses this as an opportunity to like control the masses, and so there's an a resistance that is formed that includes Ying Nan, which is Shang-Chi's and Xu Shailing's aunt, played by Michelle Yeoh from
Mm,
Shang-Chi. She's not voiced by Michelle Yeoh. She's actually voiced by a different Michelle. Her name is
Michelle
Michelle
Wong.
Wong.
Hmm.
Wong is there, voiced by David Chen. Okoye is there, voiced by Kenna Ramsey. And Valkyrie is there, voiced by Tessa Thompson. And so Riri Williams is recruited by this resistance group to defeat the White Vision, which is kind of Quentin Beck's like muscle man, if you will, his henchman. And so we also get a Sharon Carter cameo as the broker, the power broker in this episode, where she's like dealing, analog technology to Riri Williams so that she can build something. Riri Williams does end up destroying the White Vision, but as the Watcher tells us in the beginning of this episode, she is always fated to lose. She has never ever defeated Quentin Beck in any universe whatsoever that he
Hmm.
has ever seen. and he cannot bear to watch it one more time. So he interferes and he tells Riri at the very end to keep fighting and to kill him. And she does. And this results in the other Watchers, pause for dramatic effect, I guess. I was trying to think of the right word. I was like, this results in the other Watchers getting.
Yeah, because they have names. They're like the Eminence and the
Yeah,
Incarnate and
yeah.
the Executioner. Like,
Which
they have names, but
I did look in. Where is my? It's under my computer, my Marvel encyclopedia, because I did look for the Eminence that is voiced by Jason Isaacs, as we referenced before, but I
Mhm.
couldn't find him. So I'm like, did they just create him for this show? I'm
They
not
could have.
sure.
They could. I honestly think they might. I mean, I don't know much about the What If comics, but it could have been like this is the
Yeah.
Watcher, and like let's add other Watchers and make it his story. Which I think the
Yeah.
whole point of this is that it's he's a narrator, and like I
Yeah.
get it. I like the breaking of it, but you've already done this before, where he breaks character and breaks the
Right.
fourth wall. So this kind of thing made it feel like okay, now we're I think running out of ideas. So now we just got to make it about this grander thing and this grander. Oh wow, you got it.
I
I
got it. I pulled it out.
yeah, like I felt like at the end of this, I was just like, who cares? Because I don't feel like I don't know. I feel like that the show is not that. But again, this is what the show is, so I have to judge it on its own merits. But it was just like I just wish it had just been this anthology thing, and then it continues to try to make it that everything has to connect in some way, shape, or form. And the worst part of all is that like the fact that he tells you earlier on, he's like she's fated to lose every time. Like you all
Mhm.
immediately know she's not
Yeah.
this time. Like it's one of those things where it's a dead
Right.
giveaway in
Right.
that sense. I think it would have been crazier if like she dies and then you're like, oh shit. Oh, so this is a somber one. And he's like, nope, I gotta interfere, rewind, tell it again. Like that would have been cooler. But I feel like because you set
Mhm.
it up
Mhm.
already, it's like, all right. And all he's
Yeah.
saying is to fight back. Like there's not like a key thing that she has to do necessarily to beat him. It's just that she has to
Yeah.
fight back. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was
I
just like,
just this
don't
was
give up.
frustrating. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it kind of just loosened all the stakes for me. And also, I think Riri Williams is a character that has been done a disservice because she hasn't gotten her own show yet. So like,
Mhm.
and it's not like the Kahori episode from last season where it's like we had this whole episode to build her. Like I just feel
Mhm.
like we only got a little bit of her in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and she's not even the main character of that. So like I'm not as invested because this character I'm still not like all these other characters I at least feel like I know very well. She's the one
Mhm.
I don't. So I just felt like also that emotional attachment was not quite there, which is a disservice because she's great, Dominique
Yeah.
Thorne.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just was not. I don't know, not digging it.
No, 100%. Like, Riri Williams is really cool, and I'm
Mhm.
excited to see more of her. I just
Yeah,
don't think that like this was the best way to showcase
I
her.
agree.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I just pulled it up. The other Watchers. Okay, so there's the leader of the Watchers, which is known as the One in the comics, and then the other names for the Watchers are Icor, um,
Mhm.
Emnu,
Mhm.
Uatu, which is the Watcher that we know, but
Right.
Jeffrey Wright's character, and Isi or Ease. It's ECCE.
Mm.
Oh, and Aaron. Aaron. And Bob. Or
Aaron
maybe
A or E.
no, it's Aron, so it's probably Iran or something
Oh,
like
okay.
that. It's
And
but
Aaron.
I looked down really quick and I said, "Oh, and Aaron." That would have been really funny if
And
one of them
Doug.
had said yeah, literally had a really normal
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
But I mean, ow, those are the Watchers.
Okay.
Episode 6. What if 1872?
And this one, oh God, I hate what I love about Friends is that Friends, the format for every episode is the same. It's the one where or the one with or the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
easy, easy. All you have to do is say, "What if this happened?" And you can't even formulate a question.
yeah.
What if 2025? What the fuck does that mean?
Right,
This
like
was so frustrating. And then, oh, don't get me started on the next one after that, or no, the
no, the
next.
finale.
Yeah, what if? What if?
Stupid. Stupid.
Oh, I just hate it. It's like you have one job, and that's to make a really cool.
The last episode should have just been titled "What if dot dot dot." Because what if is the question within itself. What if doesn't make any sense. Ooh, the finale bothers me so much. But this one is also annoying because I'm like, that's just lazy. What
Yeah,
is
and it tells us
1872?
nothing about the episode except for when it's set. Which, like, I
Yeah,
get it. Like, the whole charm is that we're getting like an old school story, but it's also like I don't know. I mean, they're trying to make a big immigrant story. It's like this is not the type of story that I think they think it's going to be a lot more impactful than it ends up being. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you disagree.
Honestly, a cool title would have been like, "What if the 10 Rings killed Xu Ling?"
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
technically it is Kate Bishop and not the 10 Rings, which is Shang. But I'm
What
just
if
saying,
Kate
like, that's
Bishop
at
killed? Like
least
you put that in or something, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, because like that would have been more that would have just been a better title.
And is the whole
Okay,
thing just like what if these characters existed in 1872? Like, do they ever explain why these characters are existing then, or is it just like, oh, here are your
so
characters you love, but we're just gonna put them in an old time setting?
basically like they're saying that in this universe, Shang's family immigrated, excuse me, to America in like 1860, but
Hmm.
because racism, they were getting treated very poorly. So then Xu Ling like built up this whole resistance and like hated like America because they were treating the Chinese immigrants so poorly. Um, that she's like she went like rogue one day, and then obviously this episode starts with Shang trying to find her, and then you find
Right.
out obviously that like she is this masked being known as the Hood that has been um brainwashing all of these Chinese immigrant workers because she's trying to like I think either like build up an army or like free them in some way, because she's trying to like reclaim like power as like a Chinese immigrant in America in the year 1872. At least
So
that's the message that I was getting.
right. So to answer the question, it's just what if these characters existed a century earlier, or
Yes.
yeah. So it's not like they time traveled back to that year. It's just like no. What if instead of now they lived back then? But the
Yes.
problem is a lot of them still talk and speak and act like they do in 2025. Like Haley Steinfeld is not trying to put on any old timey voice.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where I was kind of confused. I was like, wait, like okay, so it's just what if these characters existed? Like, I get what they're trying to do with the story. Like, they want to make it about immigration, so setting it during that time makes a lot of sense. But it's not like the whole intrigue is that there are characters that we know now, but in an old time setting. It'd be like, what
Yeah.
if Tony Stark lived in the 1440s? Like
Yeah.
I feel like that's the premise. It's not what if year. I don't know. I'm so pissed with the title.
Yeah, because even when they had the other year that was like, what if the Avengers were I think this title was something like, what if the Avengers were in like 16 or like 15 something something, and it was during like the Robin Hood
Yeah.
era. Remember
And
like the
that's fair
Robin
because
Hood
then it's
episode?
like, okay, so this is the story about like if my characters lived back then. That's all they
Yeah.
have to do. But they just
Yeah.
give a year and it's like that doesn't tell me what it's about.
Right.
And the whole year, all it is to do is to put us in a time where this immigration stuff was more, it was different than it is now. It was merely a setting to
Yeah.
be able to tell the story they wanted to tell. It had really no effect on it other than that very base level groundwork, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Um yeah, so basically so Kate Bishop and Shang-Chi work as this like uh partner. um they have this partnership in the year 1872 where they go around. Their main mission is to stop this antagonist they know of as the Hood because they are kidnapping all of these people and like destroying all of these towns. And so John Walker is randomly there in the beginning, but he gets shot very quickly. Also, Sonny Birch is there, which is like if you're gonna have show one of your episodes take place in like the Wild West and you're gonna have these thick accents, like you're gonna get Walt and Goggins to be there
Hmm.
for it, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Hmm.
And Simu Liu was doing a little accent for his version of Shang-Chi in this episode that I did appreciate. I was vibing with that. um Obviously they find out that the Hood is Xu Ling because she's kind of being like almost manipulated by this dark entity that is the Hood, and it's making her do bad
Yeah.
things. um and because Kate Bishop doesn't realize it soon enough, she does end up shooting her, which is like a more dark place that the MCU like hasn't gone for,
Yeah.
and it feels like so it was, they had this like final moment where, she was like, "Oh my God, like Shang, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't know." And Chang's like, "Well, you didn't kill her. Like the Hood did. Like don't worry." Um, but still, like, not much to say on this one. Oh,
Yeah.
and then at the end of this episode is when the other Watchers approach Jeffrey White's Jeffrey
You're right.
Wright's, Jeremy Allen White's Watcher, and
Cousin. Yeah. No, I
behind you, chef.
what is so
Yes,
weird
chef.
though, like this is the one that feels the most like thrown together of like okay, I get they wanted to have the two Shang-Chi characters and explore Chinese immigration. But
Mhm.
it felt so random that you're throwing Kate Bishop, John Walker, like Sonny Birch, like all these random characters in. Like, and then you made a case for Sonny Birch, but it did feel a little too random for
Yeah,
me
no,
for
very
this one.
random,
Like
very
just kind of
random.
thrown all together. And honestly, giving that the last episode ended the way it did, the fact that it's not until the end of this episode that we get that cycle back around to the Watcher stuff, it
Yeah,
feels very disjointed. It feels like, well, we have one more idea, so we can't get to that quite yet. But it's like, no, like what,
yeah,
you know? And the Watcher didn't even interfere in this one, so like it's not like he's
yeah.
continuing to interfere. If anything, they should have made this one the last one, and then just made the one where he interferes this one, so that the next
Mhm.
episode can be a continuation of that instead of putting this middle portion in. I don't know.
Well, he did interfere in this one as well, actually. I can't think of the specific moment, but it was
Okay.
something with, like, the little boy that they met. His name is, like, June Fawn
Oh, he helps
or
him
something.
survive. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
helps him
Okay. Okay.
because
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I
yeah,
forgot about that moment. Yep. Okay. So he did
but
infiltrate twice. So then
yeah.
they're like, okay,
But then I
that's
feel
it.
like this is the episode when the Watchers are like, "You know what? We let it slide with Riri.
Right.
This one, we're not gonna let it slide." And then the next episode is when they confront him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm supporting your argument as well, Dill. Um, yeah, it was fine. Episode 7.
Hmm.
What if the Watcher disappeared? So this episode opens up in the universe where what's her name? Don't tell me.
Sorry.
No, 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 no. Oh my
Sh-
god, Karen Gillan.
Oh, Nebula.
Nebula. Jesus. Would have lost the trivia match there.
Well, you got the name of the
Um
actress, which was probably what they would have asked.
hopefully in that moment. Um Nebula is the Nova Prime on Xandar, and the Hydra Beast from season 1 is attacking their reality. So Captain Carter flies in the spaceship that we know to be Kang the Conqueror's time travel thing. It has a name. Hold on, I wrote it down. Time Sphere, the
Yeah.
Time Sphere, Kang's Time Sphere. And so people were, theorizing that, like, oh, does this mean that Kang then is dead because they took his ship? Probably. Hope so. Um, and so she arrives with her team of her Avengers, which consist of da 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 Captain Carter, Birdie, played by, as you said, Natasha Lyonne,
So good.
Kahori, and Storm wielding Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
and we get the da na 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 na. I heard the theme
Perfect.
song and I was like, oh my god, I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm having a
Yeah.
good time. So they defeat the Hydra Beast from attacking Nebula's reality, and some shards of glass fall from the sky. And Captain Carter, I don't know what
Captain
that
Kata.
Captain Carter, I don't know what that accent was. Captain Carter recognizes them to be shards from the fifth dimension where the
Mhm.
Watcher resides because she's been there. And so she's like, they all lock in that moment and they are like, okay, so we need to go watch him because, or find him rather, because he must be in trouble because he would tell us if something was wrong. And since he's not, he must be in trouble.
Mhm.
So we go to their ship up in space, that Birdie's ship in particular, and they have a foosball table where we see quite a few characters, some old characters, some brand new characters, everyone in between. The ones that I saw in the very quick shots that we got of the foosball table were Cap, Rogue, Logan, Mystique, Iron Man, Wanda,
Mhm.
Magneto, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so basically they find these 3 shards of glass and they're like, oh, well, if we're going to go to the fifth dimension, we need a really good ship to do it. So Birdie takes one of the shards of glass, tries to make a new ship. It doesn't succeed. Storm takes one of the shards of glass and is like, okay, well, then I'm going to use the power of the gods to try to access the fifth dimension. Doesn't work. They basically come to the conclusion that they need Infinity Ultron's help because he is able to access the fifth dimension after he gets all of the Infinity Stones and wipes his reality clean of all life. So they go to a reality where he's already done that. Or they don't. Captain Carter goes on her own because she doesn't want to risk losing any more friends. She's being very Captain America about all of it. She's like, I need to sacrifice myself. Very noble of her. What the hell? So she goes to Ultron by herself, but she is taken by the other Watchers, and then the rest of the team they go to Ultron and they're like, oh, what did you do to her? You killed her, whatever. They think it's Ultron, but he's like, it wasn't me. I want to help. I can help you guys. That's our episode ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Episode 8. We didn't even get 9 episodes in our final season here. No. They shorted us at 8.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not mad about it.
Episode 8. What if? We've said what we needed to say about that. This episode opens up with some flashbacks of the Watcher's first day, Uatu's first days as being a Watcher. He takes his oath that he will never interfere, and they kind of show him the ropes of what it means to be a Watcher, and then we are flash forward to the present day, where they name all of the times that he's intervened throughout his time of being a Watcher. They say you intervened with Riri Williams, June Fawn, Reed Richards, Nick Fury, and Madison, and some girl named Madison with a Y and 2 N's, which was very fun.
That was funny. And he's just kind of like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, she really wanted to watch The Sopranos that day. What can I say?
Well, yeah.
Under the Watcher's description in the encyclopedia, it does say that he does interact with Reed Richards a bit and the whole Fantastic Four actually throughout the comic books, which is a direct reference to that.
I do wonder, are we going to get him in First Steps?
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, maybe. What if, Dyl? What if? So basically, the rest of the team shows up to rescue the Watcher and Peggy, and they basically come up with this plan to take the rest of the Watchers to the universe that Stephen Strange resides in because of that whole evil episode where what if he lost his heart instead of his hands? And now Dr. Stephen Strange is a universe within it himself, so he can make the universe whatever it is. So as soon as they get to that universe, Doctor Strange will make it so the Watchers don't have powers to defeat them. So basically they fight a lot. Lots of fighting in this episode. They try to take on the Watchers, but the Watchers are just too powerful. So Uatu comes up with an idea to have the other, the Avengers, for lack of a better phrase, the Avengers in this scenario take the Watcher Oath so that they too can have the powers of the almighty Watchers. So once they do that, the fight is a little bit more fair. But even so, the Watchers still kind of get the best of them at the end. But then Peggy is in a sacrificial play, as you do when you're Captain America. You or Captain Britain or Carter, whatever. She punches them so hard that they get launched into a different reality, I'm assuming. And so they end up on Doctor Strange's reality, which is where the Watchers lose their power. And then basically the whole series ends with the Watcher feeling like maybe finally for once someone is watching over him, and it's Peggy Carter. So it's kind of cool that I will say I kind of did like that they kept coming back to her and they kind of made her kind of the protagonist throughout the series of What If. Like you are probably going to say, Dyl, did we need it? They probably all could have just been one-offs and it would have been as successful. I agree. but any chance to get some like good heroine representation in my mind
Mhm.
is always a
Yeah,
win.
and I mean, look who's
um
watching over with him. It's like a badass black superhero. It is a badass indigenous superhero, and it is the love
Natasha
child
Leone.
of a of a human and a duck. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know what? They're in good hands.
yeah,
That's like the holy trinity right there. So,
yeah,
um,
100%.
yeah, no, it ended in a place where I was like, whatever. But like, it did feel like a good ending for what this season was. It's just I
Hmm.
didn't particularly like what this season was. So,
Right.
not the worst episode though. Definitely not the worst episode. Like, I think in the middle it just really fell off. But like this, at least I
Yeah,
was entertained by it. I was like, oh, okay,
yeah,
so this is where we're going. This is how it's gonna end up. But ultimately, a bit of a dud of a season. Honestly, yeah,
yeah,
not a great one. Not a great one, especially
yeah.
for the final one. Just not good.
Yeah, I was not looking forward to it. I hadn't started it yet, but then my friend texted me and was like, "Oh, have you started the new season of What If?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm not loving it." And I was like, "Oh, great." Like that sucks because we had just gotten like a really good animated series, and even like season 2 before this one was like pretty solid. So I'm like, "Oh, why they drop the ball on like the last one?"
Yeah.
So,
I
I
mean, season
guess
1 was great though. So like there are still great
yeah,
episodes. Like the
yeah.
zombies episodes peak for
Yeah.
What If, but
I
like
mean,
there
it's
are certain
getting its full
episodes that I love.
spin-off, the
Right.
zombies
Yeah.
concept,
I'm very
so
excited for that.
yeah.
Cool. So Kelsey, I didn't do a ranking of these episodes. Do you have one?
I did not
Nah, I mean,
because
we have our
w
top
yeah,
few. I mean, it's your number one, my number one, and then the Howard the Duck are like the top 3. But
and then, yeah, and then sorry,
yeah,
you
yeah.
said,
No, yeah, it's the Mecha slash Guardian slash
and
Howard the Duck.
then
Those are like the
yeah,
3 that I
yeah,
would recommend, which are 3 of the first 4. So honestly, once you pass that,
right,
you're like, yeah, I'm good,
yeah,
which sucks because but I get why they put them early because it has to build to the end and whatever. But
mhm.
what I did like about the final episode that we just forgot to mention was Jason Isaacs did the opening instead, which I liked.
Oh,
And it was
yes,
very
yes,
dark and it was very kind of somber and cold, which I liked. I think that was a cool spin.
yeah,
Like I think they have cool ideas. It's just the stories themselves are just not interesting enough. Like the premises of the stories themselves, I should say. Like I'm not like, oh my gosh, yeah, what would the child of Howard and Kat Dennings look like?
Darcy.
What would it be? Or you know
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
Yeah, what would Kaylee Steinfeld be like in old Western? Oh, I'll tell you, watch True Grit. That movie's phenomenal, and she's in that movie. So,
that's
but
so funny.
it is what it is. Like,
Yeah,
what if Jake Gyllenhaal's character was back? Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. So it is what it is. That's it. That's what if. But hey,
that's
it means we're gonna have a great year ahead because that was in 2024. 2025 is gonna
yeah,
be great. We have so many great things coming. We have trivia. We have Captain America: Brave New World. We have Thunderbolts asterisk. We have Fantastic Four First Steps. We
mhm,
have a new animated Spider-Man series that starts next week or in 2 weeks, I should say.
yeah,
We have a new Daredevil series this year, which
mhm,
also got a first
mhm,
trailer that I'm not watching because I now I'm at the point where I just don't watch trailers anymore unless Kelsey really wants me to. I will. But yeah,
I
very
don't need
exciting
to.
year coming up, and then we're gonna try to do some more trivia stuff as frequently as we can. A little format changes to come in the year. We'll get that in a future date, but otherwise, I'm excited for what 2025 has to offer, Kels. Right?
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Any last thoughts on this season? Any thoughts on the year ahead? The stuff we're gonna be seeing on the screens and on our TVs and all that.
Um, I'm excited. I'm
Okay.
excited for another year here at MMM.
Yeah.
I'm excited for what the fate of the Trivia League's gonna be and what Matt Fisto might have on the horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a really, really exciting year. So
Yeah. And to tease what we're doing next week, we're gonna be kicking things off with our next trivia league episode because these two competitors are ready to go. Jake Tato, Joe Farrelly. We're gonna get another champ or a reigning champ. Either way, there will be someone who is the champion. I mean, there's always gonna be someone who's a champion, but we will have
yeah,
another championship match to decide if that champion's
yeah,
gonna stay the same or change, which is gonna be really fun. Jake versus Joe, the guy who won the Infinity Gauntlet, cashed it in, beat Stacy, has that belt, versus the guy who went through a tournament and has that shot now, beat Corey,
yeah,
has a chance at that belt. So both of them have worked really hard for it. So I'm really excited to see our two two best competitors right now take each other on, and then see who emerges now as the next best. And we've got our faction wars, which on this show we're friends, we're buds, but storyline wise, it's me versus Matt to see who's going to really be taking the reins of the trivia league. And if he beats me fair and square, I'm handing it over. So it'll be very interested to see how that goes. All the character stuff that'll be built from that, but that is going to be next week, the title match, where you might see a little tease of what's to come next month. But Kels, anything else for our viewers? Anywhere they can find you? Our socials are easy down there. It's just anywhere. Dylan_Randazzo is normally my handle. Kelsey A Kilp is normally hers, or Kelsey A Kilpatrick. But Kelsey, anything else that you're up to that you want to let anyone know?
I guess at this point in time, the only thing I can really confidently advertise is probably my letterbox.
Okay.
I'm gonna be a lot better at like going to the movies and logging this year. As I said, this is going to be my year of being very cultural and being very pop culture heavy. So I'm going to be getting out there. I'm going to be ranking and reviewing. Maybe I'll make some lists this year. Lists are really popular.
And rewatches too. Like if you're watching, well, I don't know if you should give it away for trivia purposes, but if you watch Iron Man again one day, relog it, because at the end of the year it'll be fun, because they do this thing called stats where they will tell you how much you watched throughout a year, how many times you watched the movie. I think it'd be kind of cool, even if it's on a burner account, so people can't follow and see what you're doing out of fear that they will know what you're prepping. Yeah, at least so you can tell us like how many times you watched Iron Man in the year 2025. Maybe I don't know if you'll watch Iron Man a bunch, but you know what I mean. But yeah, gonna be a very exciting year. So follow Kelsey there. She's Kelsey A Kilp at Letterboxd, so that's why I'm that the handles will stay the same. I hope I should have checked with you beforehand, but
no, that's perfect.
Do you like the new intro?
No, I love it.
All right, cool.
I love it. I love the setup. I love the intro.
Nice. It's clean. It's slick. New year, new us. So stay tuned, guys, for the title match next week. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of What If Season 3. And always, please make sure to like and comment. It helps us so much. Reach that algorithm. I'm going to be doing a Q&A live stream soon in February, where I'll address you all and give you some updates on the channel. But if you'd like to support us, please subscribe and stay tuned for more. We got some fun stuff coming in the new year. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.